Elian Reed pressed his palm against the viewport as the shuttle descended through Novaris's pearl-white atmosphere. The planet's 3 moons hung in a perfect alignment that astronomers on Earth could only theorize about, a phenomenon he'd dedicated his career to studying. Now, as Earth's leading authority on Novarian celestial mechanics, he'd been selected as the scientific liaison to the recently discovered alien civilization. 10 minutes until landing, Dr. Reed, announced the pilot. Ambassador Chen requests your presence in the briefing room. Elian nodded, straightening his formal diplomatic uniform. The wrinkles betrayed his discomfort with anything not covered in telescope grease or star charts. 6 months of cultural training hadn't prepared him for the reality of being one of the first humans to live among the Novarians. Ambassador Chen's expression was grave. There's been a development. The Novarian High Council has requested that you participate in a binding cultural tradition to demonstrate our commitment to lasting relations. What sort of tradition? Elian asked, immediately wary. A union, specifically with the daughter of Matriarch Thera, who heads the Science Council. Elian blinked. A marriage? They don't call it that, Chen replied carefully. But essentially, yes. The daughter's name is Seren. She's their most gifted harmonist, one who interprets cosmic vibrations, but she was born without sight. The matriarch seeks a protector and partner for her daughter during these uncertain times. This is absurd, Elian protested. I'm an astronomer, not a political pawn. You're also our only unmarried senior officer, and an expert on their astronomical phenomena. The matriarch specifically requested you after reading your papers on their moon system. The landing sequence commenced, ending further discussion. Elian's mind raced, his 3-year mission suddenly transformed into something entirely different. The reception hall of the Science Council gleamed with iridescent stone that captured and refracted light in patterns that mimicked the night sky. Matriarch Thera stood imperiously at the center, her purple skin luminescent under the crystal chandeliers, her elaborate headdress signifying her rank. Dr. Reed, she said, her translator converting her melodic language to English. Your work on our celestial bodies shows uncommon understanding for an outsider. Perhaps you can show similar insight with my daughter. Before Elian could respond, a subtle shift in the atmosphere drew his attention to a side entrance. A slender figure entered, guided by a junior attendant. Serene moved with remarkable grace, her steps precise despite her lack of vision. Her skin was a softer shade of purple than her mother's, almost lavender, with delicate markings along her temples that seemed to shimmer as she moved. Mother. Is this him? Seren asked, her voice like wind through crystal chimes. Elian was transfixed. Unlike her mother's severe appearance, Seren wore simple flowing garments that emphasized her natural elegance. Her eyes, though unseeing, were luminous pools of silver that seemed to reflect starlight that wasn't there. Yes, daughter, the human astronomer I spoke of. Thera gestured Elian forward. The arrangement will proceed in 3 days as tradition demands. Until then, you may become acquainted. Seren extended her hand, palm upward, a Novarian greeting. Hesitantly, Elian placed his hand over hers. Her skin was cool to the touch, but a surprising warmth spread up his arm at the contact. Your heartbeat sounds like the rhythm of our 3rd moon's orbit, Seren said softly, erratic yet somehow perfectly timed. Interesting. Elian found himself speechless as her fingers gently explored his hand, mapping the contours with remarkable precision. I look forward to hearing what the stars tell you. Dr. Reed, she added with a small smile, perhaps they speak of more than you've published in your journals. In that moment, caught in the gravitational pull of her presence, Elian realized this mission had become infinitely more complex than any celestial phenomenon he'd ever studied. The ceremonial union occurred with little fanfare, a pragmatic affair of signed agreements and formal pronouncements that left Elian feeling more like a business partner than a spouse.
As they settled into their shared quarters in the Science Council's residential wing,
an awkward silence stretched between them like the vast space between stars. You may speak freely, Seren said, gracefully arranging herself on a curved lounger. Your breathing pattern suggests you're uncomfortable. Elian paused from unpacking his few possessions. How could you possibly know that? Novarians perceive sound differently than humans. We don't just hear it, we feel its patterns, its textures. She tilted her head, those silver eyes seeming to look through him rather than at him, Right now, your exhalations are shortened by approximately 13% compared to when you first entered. That's remarkable, Elian admitted, sitting across from her. I'm a scientist. I observe. But you seem to observe more without sight than I do with it. A smile curved her lips. Perhaps we simply pay attention to different frequencies of the universe. Her fingers traced patterns on the armrest. Tell me about the stars, Elian. In your own words, not the formal language of your papers. Something in her request disarmed him. For the first time since arriving, Elian felt on familiar ground. He described Earth's constellations, the mythology behind their names, the way certain stars pulsed with colors invisible to the naked eye but vibrant through specialized equipment. Serene listened intently, occasionally asking questions that revealed a sophisticated understanding of astrophysics. As evening descended, their conversation flowed more naturally, and Elian began to see beyond the political arrangement to the brilliant mind before him. 3 days later, Serene introduced Elian to the Festival of Resonance, a Novarian tradition celebrating the harmonic alignment of their 3 moons. The plaza filled with Novarians playing instruments unlike anything Elian had seen on Earth, creating music that seemed to physically alter the air around them. This is how we experience the cosmos, Serene explained, guiding his hand to a crystalline structure at the center of the square. Place your palm here. When he did, vibrations surged through him, not just sound but sensation, as if he were physically touching the gravitational interactions of the moons overhead. This is how you see the universe, he whispered in realization. Serene stepped closer, the warmth of her body unexpectedly inviting. Would you dance with me, astronomer? Let me show you how the moons move through my perception. Before he could answer, she took his hands and guided him into the swirling crowd. Her movements were fluid, precise, responding to musical patterns Elian could barely discern. Yet as she pressed against him, guiding his steps, he began to feel the rhythm she followed. There, she murmured as they turned beneath the triple moonlight. Now you're moving with the middle moon's orbit. For a breathtaking moment, Elian understood what it meant to perceive as she did. Through touch, through vibration, through the spaces between sounds. Her face tilted up toward his, those silver eyes reflecting the moonlight, and something shifted between them. No longer strangers bound by arrangement, but 2 beings discovering an unexpected harmony. When they returned to their quarters, Serene reached for his face, her fingertips gently mapping his features. I see you now, Elian Reed, she whispered. Not as the human sent to satisfy my mother's political schemes, but as yourself. Her touch lingered on his lips, a question in the pressure of her fingers. Elian found himself holding his breath, caught in the gravity of a connection neither had anticipated when this arrangement began. Weeks passed as political tensions increased between Novarian factions regarding Earth relations. The Science Council, led by matriarch Thera, advocated for technological exchange, while the traditional Sovereignty Council feared cultural contamination. Through these turbulent council sessions, Elian found himself drawn to the quiet sanctuary of the quarters he shared with Serene. One evening, he returned to find her sitting before an instrument resembling a vertical harp, with strings that glowed with faint bioluminescence. The council meeting was difficult, she said without turning, her fingers hovering over the strings. I can hear it in your footsteps, Elian sighed, sinking onto a cushion nearby. Your mother is formidable. She used my latest astronomical calculations to argue that our world's orbits are symbolically aligned for cooperation. A soft laugh escaped Serene as her fingers plucked a delicate melody. Mother has always bent science to serve her purposes, yet in this case I find myself grateful for her manipulations. The admission hung between them, weighted with implication. Elian watched her play, mesmerized by the grace of her movements, the subtle shifts of expression across her face as the music flowed through her. Tonight, she continued, the 3rd moon reaches its closest approach to our world. We call it the intimate moon when it swells in our sky. Her fingers stilled on the strings. Would you describe it to me? Not as a scientist, but as someone who sees its beauty? Elian moved to the viewing portal where the largest of Novaris's moons dominated the night sky, its violet-tinged surface rich with detail. As he described its features, the delicate ray patterns, the shadows of mountain ranges catching the sun's light at oblique angles, Serene approached, standing close enough that he felt the warmth radiating from her skin. "Your voice changes when you speak of celestial bodies," she observed softly. "It carries the same resonance as our love poems." Before he could respond, she reached for his hand and placed it against the column of her throat. "Feel how your words affect me. My pulse quickens at your passion." Indeed, beneath his fingertips her heartbeat fluttered rapidly. Without conscious thought, his hand slid to cup the nape of her neck, drawing her closer. "Seren, I know," she interrupted, her silver eyes seeming to search for him despite their blindness. "I've known since the festival. Your body speaks truths your diplomatic training tries to conceal." She pressed herself against him, and Elian surrendered to the gravity between them. His lips found hers, cool at first touch, then warming as she responded with unexpected intensity. Her fingers tangled in his hair, mapping his face, his shoulders, with the same precision she applied to everything she touched. "Show me the stars," she whispered against his mouth. "Make me feel the cosmos the way you see it." They moved to their sleeping quarters, where Elian guided her hands across his body, naming constellations as her fingers traced patterns on his skin. She, in turn, taught him how to listen with his entire being, to feel the subtle vibrations of pleasure that coursed through her lavender skin as they explored each other. Their union transcended physical sensation, becoming something akin to the harmonic resonance Novarians revered. When they finally lay entwined beneath the light of the intimate moon, Seren's head resting on his chest, Elian realized that his understanding of connection, both cosmic and personal, had been forever altered. "Your heartbeat has changed," Seren murmured sleepily. "It's synchronized with mine now." Elian kissed her forehead, understanding the significance of her observation. In Novarian culture, such synchronicity was considered the deepest form of bonding, far more meaningful than the formal arrangement that had brought them together. "What happens now?" he asked, watching the violet moonlight play across her skin. Serene's fingers traced lazy patterns on his chest. "Now, astronomer, we chart our own constellation, one neither of our worlds has mapped before." The political atmosphere on Novaris grew increasingly charged as the third lunar cycle of Elian's stay approached. Trade negotiations between Earth and Novaris had reached a critical juncture, with resources and technology hanging in the balance. Matriarch Thera had become a frequent visitor to their quarters, often arriving unannounced with new demands for Elian's scientific expertise to support her political position. On one such afternoon, she entered while Elian was away, finding Seren composing a harmonization on her bioluminescent instrument. "Your human has provided useful insights," Thera stated without preamble, "but circumstances have evolved. The Sovereignty Council has proposed an alternative alliance, one that would give us access to Earth's gravitational technology without the cultural integration they demand." Seren's fingers stilled on the glowing strings. "What does this mean, Mother?" "It means a more advantageous arrangement has presented itself. Councillor Vex's son has expressed interest in forming a union with you. His family controls the mineral deposits the humans most desire." Thera moved around the room, her flowing robes rustling like dry leaves. "The human arrangement has served its purpose, but it was always temporary." "Temporary?" Seren's voice remained calm, though her hands gripped the instrument tightly. "You never mentioned dissolution terms when you arranged this union." "Because I didn't anticipate better options emerging so quickly." Thera's tone softened slightly. "Daughter, you've fulfilled your duty admirably. The Reed human speaks highly of you to his colleagues, which has opened diplomatic channels. But Vex's son offers permanent advantages. The council will vote on the new alliance tomorrow." When Elian returned that evening, he found Seren standing by the viewing portal, her posture rigid. Without turning, she recounted her mother's visit. "She plans to dissolve our union," Seren concluded, her voice wavering for the first time since he'd met her, as if it were nothing more than a temporary research grant. Elian crossed the room in 3 strides, turning her to face him. "This isn't nothing," he said fiercely. "What we've found together isn't something anyone can dissolve with a council vote." Seren's silver eyes shimmered with moisture, a phenomenon Elian had never witnessed in a Novarian. "My people don't recognize emotional attachments as binding. Elian, only advantageous alignments matter in our governance." "Then we'll create our own advantage," he insisted, holding her face between his hands. I've been developing a new theory about the harmonization between your moon system and Earth's orbital patterns. It suggests a natural resonance that could enhance both worlds' energy systems if properly channeled. That night, instead of seeking comfort in each other's arms, they worked feverishly, Elian calculating orbital mechanics while Seren translated the mathematics into the harmonics her people would understand. By morning, exhausted but determined, they had created something unprecedented, a fusion of human astrophysics and Novarian harmonic theory that predicted an energy exchange pattern beneficial to both worlds. When they presented their findings at the council meeting, interrupting the dissolution proceedings, Matriarch Thera's expression shifted from outrage to calculated interest. Counselor Vex, a broad-shouldered Novarian with deep indigo skin, studied the harmonic equations with growing discomfort. This pattern, Vex finally said, cannot be replicated with any other partnership. The specific resonance between these two individuals appears to be the catalyst. Thera approached the display, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her political agenda. The energy potential is significant, she admitted reluctantly. More than significant, Elian countered. It's transformative, but it depends entirely on the continued alignment between Seren and myself, both literally and figuratively. As the council chambers erupted in debate, Seren reached for Elian's hand beneath the presentation table. You realize, she whispered, that you've essentially claimed our hearts generate measurable cosmic energy when combined. I've only quantified what we already knew, he replied softly. Though I admit, the equations may be slightly romanticized. For the first time in public, Seren's laughter rang out, clear and unrestrained, cutting through the political tension. The sound, so genuine amidst the calculated maneuvering, caused several council members to pause and reconsider the scene before them. Perhaps, Counselor Vex conceded reluctantly, some alignments are indeed written in the stars rather than in council chambers. The seasonal transition brought with it a rare astronomical event, the convergence of all three Novarian moons with Earth's position in their shared star system. The Science Council had temporarily suspended its dissolution order, granting Elian and Seren 6 lunar cycles to prove their harmonic theory could produce the energy exchange they'd promised. Their living quarters had transformed into a makeshift laboratory, with Elian's telescopic equipment mingling with Seren's harmonic instruments. They worked in seamless tandem, Elian observing the celestial movements while Seren translated them into harmonic patterns that Novarian technology could harness. Your mother is still watching us, Elian noted one evening as they calibrated their equipment for the upcoming convergence. I saw her speaking with Ambassador Chen today. She hasn't given up on separating us. Serene's fingers danced across her control panel, adjusting frequencies. My mother calculates everything, including emotional variables. If our experiment succeeds, she'll support us, not out of maternal affection, but because it benefits Novaris. And if it fails? Elian asked, though he already knew the answer. Then I will have a choice to make, Seren replied simply. She paused her adjustments and moved toward him with the fluid grace that still captivated him. But Elian, I've already made it. She took his hands, placing them on either side of her abdomen. Beneath his palms, he felt a subtle vibration, different from the harmonics they'd been working with, more organic, more profound. Is that? His voice caught as understanding dawned. Yes, she confirmed, her silver eyes luminous in the dim light. Our genetic compatibility was considered impossible. Another reason Mother believed our union would be safely temporary. But it seems the universe has its own plans for harmony. Elian pulled her close, overwhelmed by the implications. A child, a bridge between worlds in the most literal sense. Does your mother know? Not yet. I wanted you to be the first. Serene rested her head against his chest. The convergence happens in 3 days. Our experiment must succeed now, not just for us, but for our child's future. The day of the convergence arrived with both tension and anticipation. The entire Novarian Council gathered at the Planetary Observatory, along with the Earth delegation. Matriarch Thera stood rigid and watchful as Elian made final adjustments to the equipment, while Seren prepared the harmonic receivers. The alignment begins in 60 seconds, Elian announced, his voice steady despite his racing heart. As the 3 moons moved into perfect alignment with Earth's position, Serene began to play her harmonic instrument, her fingers finding patterns that corresponded to the celestial movements. Elian activated the receivers, which began to pulse with increasing intensity as they captured the resonance between the worlds. Energy readings surged beyond their predictions. The harmonic convergence created a visible aurora above the observatory, ribbons of light dancing in patterns that mirrored Seren's music. The council members watched in stunned silence as the energy collectors registered unprecedented levels. "It's working," Ambassador Chen whispered, looking to Matriarch Thera. "This could revolutionize both our world's energy systems." Thera's expression remained composed, but her eyes betrayed her scientific excitement. "Indeed. It seems my daughter and the astronomer have discovered something unexpected." When the convergence reached its peak, Seren took Elian's hand and placed it over her instrument, guiding his fingers to play alongside hers. The harmony shifted, deepened, and the energy signatures responded in kind, creating patterns that seemed to dance between order and chaos, between science and art. As the alignment passed and the energy stabilized, the council chamber erupted in excited discussion. Calculations were confirmed, possibilities debated, and amid the scientific fervor, Seren turned to her mother. "There is one more discovery to share," she announced, her voice carrying across the chamber with newfound authority. "The astronomer and I have created more than an energy system. We have created life, a child who will inherit both our worlds." The revelation silenced the room. Matriarch Thera approached slowly, her expression unreadable as she extended a hand toward her daughter. Serene guided her mother's palm to rest beside Elian's on her abdomen. "A new resonance," Thera acknowledged quietly. "One I did not calculate for." 3 months later, as Novaris prepared for the historic signing of the Joint Harmonic Energy Treaty, Elian and Seren stood on the balcony of their new home, a structure built at the precise focal point of the planet's harmonic grid. The dwelling combined Earth architecture with Novarian acoustic design, creating spaces that sang with the movements of the moons overhead. "Ambassador Chen says Earth is sending a permanent scientific delegation," Elian said, his arm around Seren's expanding waistline. "They're calling this the most significant cross-species breakthrough since first contact." Seren smiled, leaning into his embrace. "And to think it began with your mother forcing you to marry me." "I believe the official terminology was arranged cultural union," Elian corrected with a laugh. "Call it what you will," Seren replied, guiding his hand to where their child had just kicked. "But I think we both know the truth. Sometimes the universe orchestrates its own harmonies, regardless of what we plan." As the 3 moons rose in succession, bathing them in graduated shades of silver light, Elian reflected on the unlikely journey that had brought them here. What had begun as political maneuvering had transformed into something neither world had anticipated, a love that generated its own light, its own energy, its own future among the stars. "Listen," Seren whispered, tilting her head toward the night sky. "The stars are singing for us tonight." And perhaps it was his imagination, or perhaps it was the harmonic sensitivity he'd developed through their connection, but Elian could have sworn he heard it too. The cosmic melody of worlds aligned in perfect, unexpected harmony.